Testing 1 2. May need to turn it up just a little bit. Maybe a little bit too much. Okay. All right, let's just see what that's saying. All right, cool. Let's jump on out here to the day. All right. Jumping out here. Good morning. Good morning. Let's see what we got here. Hebrew cracking in bright and early. It is Wednesday. I did take one trade yesterday. Let me show y'all what I did. It was again, it was on a higher price stock. Wasn't a whole lot. I don't know what was going on yesterday. There was a lot of slams. I mean, a lot. And so I ended up doing a trade on GNPX, and I took a loss. It was about a 42-cent loss, and I was like, well, it is what it is. Got in at 957, looking for it to move to 1013, and I can actually show you this on the charts so you can see what I was looking at. Scoot over. There we go. Okay. So GNPX, we saw this thing do a nice little run during pre-market from 930 up here to $13. I was like, wonder could it start trending up? And so I started watching trends and things like that after the open, and did this little dip and came up here to like the 980 something. And was I in at this time? Let's see. So my open time was, yeah, so I was in on this first move up, and I got in at 954. It went up there, but it didn't quite hit my target of 1013. I was looking for it to spring up there. 1013 would have been $100 on the day. I would have been good to go there. And it kept going, and I held it, and I saw it start building up, and it came back up here to 980. And of course, you know, I have a hard stop in at the bottom of these levels just to see if it can get irrational and get that little 10 pop. And they did a direct offering during the intraday, and that direct offering most definitely stopped me out right here. So I was up here, I was nice and green, up 30 cents, looking for it to blast to that 1013 level. And yeah, they did a direct offering. It stopped me out on the way down. I lost $80, but that's okay. My average loser is right around 80. And I mean, I was going for 100 or more if it did want to get back up here to this highly traded level at 11. But yeah, you know, easy little stop out there on a direct offering. Now, if I did not have that hard stop in, this would have hurt. This would have hurt a lot, actually. So when it stopped, let's see. So without the hard stop, I got stopped out at around 914. And that's crazy because I had my stop at 930. So I lost about 15 more cents on slippage on this stop out. So without that, I would have been down to 866 because it went straight to 866 through this. And then another hard drop down to 716. So it is what it is. I had my little seatbelt on. It was a higher price stock, low float. I was looking for a nice little pop out. Even if it were to just wick up there and give me the opportunity to sell, I would have did that. So, but it was one of those plays. Really wasn't a whole lot going on, and things had already been dumping during the pre-market. And I was like, well, let's just see what holds up during intraday. And so it could not hold up. Oh, well. So let's jump back over here to Yahoo, see what's popping up. So it says, why OpenAI is closer to becoming magnificent. So there are a couple things that are coming up on the month of November. One, we're still in a government shutdown. Federal employees have been definitely taking some hits. I know they've been doing food lines for them and other types of assistance to while they're not getting paid, as the folks that legislated this move, the folks that actually shut down the market, are still getting paid. So it's kind of like, they're left in limbo until the market uncoils itself, I guess you could say. But yeah, it's crazy, man, how the turning point that can happen. Lots of revenue. I'm like, bro, that's crazy. Like I do government contracts and things like that, but I'm not tied to a entity. So it's kind of different for me. So I'm kind of like, I get in, do my work and get out. But for them, having everything tied to it, all of the assistance, all of the, things tied to it, that shutdown is big. But we'll see how this month ends up cracking out. Or not this month, but the next month, November, ends up cracking out. If this will be the next longest shutdown that we've had. I think the last longest one was 35 days. So of course, I know y'all heard about Israel popped off on in the Gaza Strip again. So they shot some missiles there. I think what was his name? Netanyahu issued a hit. So I was watching the videos yesterday, the missiles coming in, and boy, it's crazy how the people that the missiles are aimed at can see the missiles coming and hear the missiles coming and then see the missiles hit. It's crazy. Like people just outside recording, oh wow, it just looks like a shooting star at first until it turns in your direction. Anyway, let's see. So you said yesterday was hard. You made 1,000 off NASDAQ and 400 off NOK. What was NOK? Is that Nokia? NOK. No, that can't be Nokia. Let's see. Let's see what NOK is. NOK. Oh, that is some type of Nokia. Let's see what this is talking about. Looking back, let's go zoom back on NOK. What in the world? Okay, well, it did the opposite move of what happened to me. It went up instead of down. Did it have catalyst on yesterday or what? Let's see. Nope. So it says Nokia develops future or deploys future ready. Okay, it has history from 2024 and has been moving up. But they had a bunch of catalysts yesterday. Let's see. EON Nokia to join forces in a strategic collaboration. Yeah, Nokia seems to have been something special yesterday. Closed with the ATR of 28 cents. But man, moved from 644 up there to 807. So about a $2 move, a little bit less than $2. I don't know. Why is this red instead of green? Am I tripping? Did it do a big move down or something? Let me see. Oh, wow. Okay. So this one looked like it came all the way back down here and popped back up. So it wasn't that big of a move. Okay, let's see where it went from here. So it popped back up here to 751. And from so about $1 move in here. 751 up to 8, not even $1 move, a little bit less than $1 move. Interesting. Nvidia bought 1 billion into the company, man. That's That's insane. I know I saw some NVIDIA news this morning too. Let me see. NVIDIA. This OpenAI. S&P 500 eyes fresh record with Fed is somebody speaking from the Fed today? This is the last week. I think this week was pretty clear, but maybe somebody speaking. Let's see. It's the 29th. 29th. This is the FOMC meeting today. And then tomorrow we have Bowman with a pre-recorded video. So yeah, we're just closing up the month. I'm gonna have to just probably I don't know. It's Wednesday. It's not looking super hot. I mean, yesterday I took that loss, and right now I'm just like, do I really want to touch anything? I don't know. I have been kind of skipping over Wednesdays. They get really choppy, but let's see what this is talking about.
To connect these.
Oh, this is the NVIDIA news. Okay.
We're working together to connect these NVIDIA Drive Hyperion cars into a global network. And now in the future, you'll be able to hail up one of these cars, and the ecosystem is going to be incredibly rich, and we'll have Hyperion or robo-taxi cars all over the world.
Joining me now on the ground from D.C., our very own tech editor, Dan Howley. Dan.
Yeah, Josh, obviously a ton of announcements here from Jensen, from NVIDIA. He's just had a press Q&A where he was discussing things related to the U.S. and China, basically saying how the U.S. is ahead as far as AI goes, way ahead as far as chips go, but there is the risk of falling behind if we don't continue to invest in AI and continue to see immigrants come in and start to work in those areas. He also, during the event itself, laid out a number of announcements, including a deal with Lilly, which will see that company take 1,000 GPUs to work on drug discovery. Also working with, obviously, the Department of Energy, building out 7 supercomputers for the department, including one that will have 10,000 GPUs, and then just a litany of other deals, such as with CrowdStrike, and so on and so forth. And this is just kind of the cadence that we see with NVIDIA events, where they host these big get-togethers, these GTC conferences, whether here in DC, the main one in San Jose, or across the world, and they have these major announcements, and it helps to push the stock price forward. I think it's worth pointing out this all comes as the company's market cap closely approaches the $5 trillion mark. The company hit $4 trillion in July.
Interesting. Big moves out there on NVIDIA.
Team just told me Apple crossing the $4 trillion mark. And what caught my attention in this Microsoft OpenAI news that hit moments ago, the new arrangement excludes hardware. So if you are an Apple shareholder, should you be absolutely terrified about what OpenAI might be working with Jony Ive? We've heard maybe it's a pen. It's not a phone, but do you need to be concerned here?
Yeah, listen, I am a longtime Apple shareholder and bull. I think they definitely have to lay out a strategy in AI. I am concerned. I mean, I've said this. This is the first time in holding the stock since 2014 where I'm concerned about how they're going to iterate into AI to own that space. And I just haven't seen convincing evidence of that. So to your point, I think it's instructive. But I'd also point out to Apple's at the high end of consumer spending. They have a lot of margin room to figure it out. They don't have to be first necessarily. But I think they are now, the gap between them and the rest of the Mag 7 in terms of AI implementation is widening, and it's concerning, but for me, not yet a reason to sell.
I think this is why some investors in some quarters have raised this question, Joe, about whether this AI boom is actually an AI bubble. And I'm curious how you think about that and what you tell your clients about that.
Yeah, Josh, I think it all comes down to how big and how distributed do you think AI will be? And as I've talked to enterprise executives at large companies, the takeaway that I am getting consistently is it's not will AI deliver productivity, it's when. Many of these companies, they just haven't figured out how to build the teams internally to deploy OpenAI and other AI tools, and then how to make them how to then extract those productivity gains. So in my view, it's a matter of when, not if, those productivity gains happen. And so consequently, I think we are not in bubble mode yet.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's turn to the Fed's big rate decision coming on Wednesday. Vishal Kanduja, Morgan Stanley Senior Fixed Income Portfolio Manager, joining us now. Vishal, good to see you. So let's start there with that Fed decision. Vishal, you know, markets assume that cut is a lock this week. Is that your assumption, Vishal? And how many cuts do you pencil in from here?
Thanks, Josh, for having me on. I think the Fed, put simplistically, is in a very tough situation at this point. They don't have clarity on data, at least the data that we and them depend on, telling them about the data dependency or data dependent path that they're on. So I think the next two cuts in this, because I think the October information, whenever it comes out, when the government opens up, is going to be still delayed as well as looked at skeptically. It'll be very difficult to push back from the Fed's perspective, push back on market expectations of how much is priced in till the end of the year. So not only the one coming up this week, but also the next one feels, from our perspective, a locked-in rate cut from the Fed perspective from that end. Now, if you expand that to end of 2026, I think around 4.5, 5 cuts are priced in. The asymmetry of data and the pieces of information that we're getting today, I think the labor market slowly but steadily weakening or tightening, however you want to put it. Also, I think we've started to see in quick succession, I think some bankruptcies that are showing up, smaller in nature, but idiosyncratic in nature from our perspective. But still, I think the financial conditions are starting to get a little bit tighter from that perspective as well. So we do think that they deliver on market expectations, about 5 cuts till the end of 2026.
We got some of that data coming up today.
Financial stability is a real goal. Wealth looks impressive. Stability feels peaceful. It's the difference between staying up late, watching the market ticker, and sleeping soundly no matter what the headlines say. Financial stability means you built a strong foundation, strong enough to handle surprises, job losses, medical bills, market swings, you name it. You're not bulletproof, but you're prepared. It's not about how much you make, it's about how much room you've created to breathe. So what does that look like in real life? You got 6 months of expenses saved, you're living on less than you earn, and you're investing at least 15 to 20% of what you make. Your debts don't choke your paycheck, your insurance actually protects your income, and your net worth grows year in and year out, no matter how small the gains. That's stability. Too many people chase the next trade, the next car, the next upgrade, and they call it progress. But the real progress is boring. It's paying yourself first. It's saying no to lifestyle creep. It's building margin into life so when something breaks, and something always breaks, you don't. Financial stability isn't built in bull markets. It's tested in bear markets. It's what lets you stay invested while everybody else panics. And it's what gives you the freedom to take opportunities others can't afford. The bottom line, stability is the quiet flex. You don't need to flash it or brag about it or post it online. You just know that no matter what happens tomorrow, you're going to be fine. And that's the kind of wealth that lasts.
All right. Well, yeah. So we got rate cut news coming today, and that may put kind of like the only things that I'm seeing right now, I don't really see any low floats that are up a whole lot. And I think I need to get back to the 8 quality trades, because thing is, this slow market, we haven't been seeing 100% movers like on this last week like we have been. Not clean moves. It's been a lot of kind of wiki, kind of trashy moves. Even if it moves up, it's kind of like a little bit of indecision. And then the other thing is there's no real clear topic as well. So we'll see how it goes into the first of the month. especially after November 1st. November 1st is when, if we stay in the shutdown, SNAP benefits will continue to be held off. You know, the what is the word I'm thinking of? Furloughed. Furlough, I forget the word, but the federal employees still won't get checks and things like that. And so we may see longer and longer food lines, people standing in line trying to get like the basic needs, you know, just bread, just basic stuff to feed their family. And in that, I think it's going to create a whole lot. I know it's going to create a whole lot of fear, but it's also going to create a whole lot of expectation in the market. So even if it does hold off, I expect whatever comes out of it when it does open up, there's going to be a huge surge when it does open up. So, you know, I think we're gonna sit sideways for a little bit, and then yeah, we're gonna start seeing it peak out. But I don't want to go red on this indecision and then be in a situation where like I'm trying to dig out of a hole again, you know, red. So just trying to play defense, keep the money, and wait for that explosiveness. Wait for those new topics to come out. Still, the top topic is AI, but we'll see from what comes of all of this. Okay, so we looked at the Federal Reserve. We looked around. Let's see. Whole bunch of red on the day. Let's see what else we got out here. And then most of the things that are moving right now are penny stocks. I see FLG, I see FSA or PFSA. I see a bunch of penny stocks. And they got millions traded too, except for VC. VC is pretty much the only one above. Well, there's a couple above $1, but VC is one with 23 million shares traded. So that's telling me to sit tight, hold tight. VC. Yeah, 23 million got cooked. We're gonna see though. It's there's so much going on. The ceasefire ending in Israel, and we got AI continuing to just spread across the world. We got the job layoffs. We got Nvidia trying to make fully autonomous transportation vehicles or people movers. So I mean, that's gonna be crazy. You dial into your phone, and instead of a person coming, you just get a car. Now, there's definitely gonna have to be some verification because people could just call for a car and then try to steal it. But I think just wondering how that can go. How can you protect? Well, I guess if you have cameras on there, maybe you have somebody doing security on each vehicle, looking at what's going on, and maybe if they can shut off the vehicle, kind of like used to watch this show where they used to leave like vehicles and things like open and people try to steal them, but I can't remember the name of it. And people would get into the car and they would lock the car, shut it off, and all of that good stuff. So it could be a situation like that for somebody that tries to actually steal one. You just get shut in there. But I'm not certain. I think what they need, if they're gonna do something like that, they got to give you a way to get out, just in case it is malfunctioning. Maybe if they, you call for a car, they send you some type of key to your phone. They can emit some type of frequency from your phone, so you can actually get out. You actually pay for the ride. But I'm thinking too much about this. I don't know. Let's see. Fed decision is on deck. What to expect? Fed expected to cut rates again, even as officials fly. From Jennifer, senior reporter. Okay. This a video or what is this? Looked like it was a video loading, maybe not.
There's not a lot of suspense seemingly around the decision itself. I mean, the market has priced in that it's a virtual certainty, but there is about what's going to happen after that.
Yeah, good morning, Julia. That's right. This is pretty much a done deal. 25 basis point cut expected on Wednesday for the second consecutive policy meeting in a row, even as Fed officials have really been essentially flying blind, right, during this government shutdown without official government data. Yes, they did get a reading on inflation with the consumer price index this past Friday, but they didn't get that all-important September jobs report, so they're kind of having to rely on private sector data, surveys like the Beige Book or surveys of CEOs, which have shown anecdotally that the labor market has continued to deteriorate. And you heard Chair Powell speak a couple of weeks ago saying that the downside risks to the job market had risen, implying that another rate cut was on the table. So hence why another rate cut expected. As for the path forward, I think that Chair Powell is not going to commit to anything. He's going to reiterate this is going to be meeting by meeting decisions that are going to be taken, and that they're going to take a cautious approach. And they remain in the dark right now until the government reopens. So until they get more data, they're continuing to sort of fly blind here. And I don't think that this is going to be another slam dunk from the perspective of December, perhaps something that the markets are listening for during Fed Chair Powell's press conference.
And they're also going to be listening, aside from that and beyond that, as to who the next Fed chair is going to be. We're likely not going to get more news on that this week. But Treasury Secretary Bessent did seem to confirm that the list has been of potential next Fed chairs has been narrowed down to 5 candidates.
That's right, Julie. Earlier today, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, alongside President Trump, gaggled aboard Air Force One, and he reiterated that his search for the next Fed chair, and Bessent is leading the search for that, has been whittled down to 5 candidates. He expects to continue second-round interviews after this Asia travel, and then is expected to hand President Trump a slate of final candidates just after Thanksgiving. And the president said he expects to make a decision by the end of the year, at which point Bessent sort of jumped in and said before Christmas. And they did confirm that the 5 candidates on that short list include current Fed governors Mickey Bowman, Chris Waller, former Fed governor Kevin Warsh, current NEC director Kevin Hassett, and the head of BlackRock's fixed income, Rick Ryder.
Now let's turn to the Fed's big rate decision coming on Wednesday. Vishal Kanduja.
We saw that one already. Is there another one here?
Time now for what to watch Wednesday, October 29th. We're going to start off on the earnings front. It is a big week for big tech with 3 magnificent 7 names reporting on Wednesday. That's Microsoft, Alphabet, and Meta. Microsoft announcing first quarter results after the closing bell.
Let me put those down so I can watch those. Let's see, Microsoft earnings. Then we got Alphabet, Google. Then we got Starbucks, don't really care. Chipotle, Meta. Then we got Boeing. All right.
Microsoft announcing first quarter results after the closing bell. Analysts expecting the company to say it's spending even more money to build out its AI and cloud infrastructure. Capital spending also in focus for analysts. That could rise by as much as $15 billion in 2026, marking a nearly 45% increase from 2025. But before the earnings fireworks, of course, the Fed is concluding its October FOMC meeting and announcing its interest rate decision. Wall Street largely expecting the central bank to cut rates by 25 basis basis points on Wednesday. Yahoo Finance will begin coverage of the Fed decision at 2 p.m. Eastern. And finally, President Trump is meeting with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping in South Korea. The summit coming amid continuing trade tensions between the two countries, but Treasury Secretary Bessent saying on Sunday that there is a very substantial framework for a trade deal. Kate, it is good to have you. So November 1st obviously is quickly approaching here, Kate. Regarding SNAP benefits, can you help us understand what would happen exactly there? Just mechanically, Kate, does that mean, SNAP cards stop working? I mean, how quickly would folks feel the impact?
Yeah. So October benefits on participants' EBT cards have already been loaded. And many of them have run out of those benefits already because they don't cover all of people's grocery needs. But if people do have benefits still on their card, they should still work. What this means, though, this freeze on benefits, is that no new benefits will be loaded for November. And so that means here in Michigan, an average of $335 lost by SNAP participating families, and nationwide, about $8 billion of benefits lost that will not be used to purchase food, will not be used to feed children, and won't be used to support our food retailers.
So that's the number. How many people could be impacted nationally, Kate?
Yeah, so 42 million Americans participate in the SNAP program. That's about 12%, or 1 in 8 or 9 of us who rely on SNAP benefits.
And who receives those SNAP benefits, Kate? What's the average demo? What's the profile?
Yeah, so SNAP benefits go to low-income individuals or families. The majority of them are either seniors or families with children. Unlike the common sentiment about SNAP participants, those who are able-bodied must work to continue to receive SNAP benefits. And individuals who happen to not be working and receive benefits maybe have a disability, are caring for a disabled child. These are hard-working families. These are millions of children across the country who need this program to have sufficient amounts of resources for food and won't have that in November.
So that's I wanted to ask about that, Kate, because you are a professor of nutritional sciences, and so I was curious how you try and think through the broader public health impact of something like this.
Yeah. So I've been thinking about both the acute impact of, for 1 month, not having enough money for food, and then the long-term impact on those families. We know that when families are not able to purchase enough food, first of all, they rely on lower quality, less healthy items, right? So their health is going to take a hit. We actually see that when people run out of SNAP benefits at the end of the month, hospitalizations increase for example, for people with diabetes. So we know this has acute, immediate impacts on health. We also know that when children are hungry and they show up at school, it's hard to concentrate, it's hard to learn. And that not only affects those children, but it affects all the children around them in the classroom, right? And then as the month goes by, families are going to need to make tougher and tougher decisions about how they're going to spend their money. Obviously, you need food to live. So that means maybe rent doesn't get paid, or car repairs don't happen, or your cell phone gets turned off. And then that has really long-term effects on these families. We may end up seeing more families experience eviction. We may end up seeing more families unemployed. So this is more than just a 1 month short-term impact. This can change the economic health of families for months and potentially years to come.
We got to start with the kahuna, NVIDIA, nearing $5 trillion. Josh, do you like magic?
Sure do.
I got a magic trick for you. I'm going to show you the Wi-Fi Interactive. I usually just show you percentage return. There we see NVIDIA up 4.98% today, but watch this. This is the market cap of that company. 4.894, it's about 10 billion away from 5 trillion. And look at Microsoft, over 4. Apple is right there. Another record high for Apple today, by the way. In fact, we had 4 intraday record highs in the Mag 7, so this was really a Mag 7 day. Even Alphabet, which closed underwater today, that hit a record high. But really, the story has been chip stocks. I'm going to change this back to percentages and just kind of show you what went on in semiconductors today. As I pointed out at the closing bell, you've got these three big names solidly in the green, a couple others here, but a lot more red than green over here. And so that just kind of leads me to the theme of the day.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Was there a trend, so to speak?
Yes.
In price action.
And the trend is big beats small. Big is better than, or big is greater than small. And that's kind of an obvious tautology, but there's actually some market action that we can see it playing out in. So I'm going to show you the S&P 500, the traditional market cap one, which is weighted one, which is in purple here, and you can see it's up 17% this year. Then we have the equal weighted. That's where each stock gets one vote. So NVIDIA gets as much as, you know, your favorite paint stock. And you can see there's a big divergence that has emerged here, and we have just not seen the broad participation in the market each one of these days. We've seen it some days. Yesterday was a very broad participation heavy day, but really over the net balance over the last 6 weeks or so, we've seen this widening gulf. And so that just points to the fact that we have a more concentrated market. And some of the winners, well, they tend to be some of the bigger ones. And that's why you're seeing the major averages up on a day like today. And meanwhile, you take a look at the Russell 2000, final point in this little segment here, Russell 2000 was down 0.5%, and so was the S&P 600. So how you slice it and dice it, I guess it matters if you're big, but you really do wonder what happens if some of those bigger names falter.
What about gold? Another down day, is that party over?
You know, let me get to the headline first, because gold did crack 4,000, and excuse me, I'm not sure what's happening here. Let's see if we can get, there we go.
There we go.
Gold cracks 4,000, just like I said. We got to take a look at the metal space, because gold was reaching all-time highs day after day for weeks on end, and then all of a sudden, all the metal complex just kind of crashed. So this is what happened today. Let me just show you what happened over the prior month. And here, let's see, palladium still up 12.7%. Let's start with palladium, because this is something that was sky high. Here's year to date, and it is down significantly. Now, in the grand scheme of things, you might say, well, that just looks like a blip, but these are heavily leveraged futures contracts, and that's no small potatoes. Here's gold. You can see this is just looks like a little blip. So the long-term trend is intact, but there is some concerning stories I've heard about central banks not being as heavily invested or wanting to buy as much as they used to. Central banks are the reason that we've seen gold surge so much over the last 10 years. Since 2015, up 237%. You've seen China, you've seen Russia, they get the headlines, but you know who the number one buyer of gold last year? It was Poland. And so central banks all around the world have been piling in to de-dollarize. If that trend goes away, well, guess what? That is the biggest marginal buyer. Now, separately, we do have this ETF-induced speculative mania, also people buying the physical, and that's when you see the shorter term trend. This right here, this kind of move, that parabolic move, that is not sustainable. We can see that resume, but you have to have the ETF buyers still be interested, because some of them are getting burned right now. You have to have the people in the futures who are getting margin calls, they have to buy again. And then the central banks kind of backstopping the whole market, you really need them to participate. Problem is, you don't really get that much news. Central banks buy kind of under the radar, and it takes a long time for their holdings to be reported and generally well known.
Speaking of central banks,
yes,
Fed on deck tomorrow. What's on your radar? What are you listening for?
You know, I'm really, so I think there's going to be some interesting things about quantitative tightening, and that's the balance sheet runoff, and it's really in the weeds, wonky stuff. I don't think it matters that much. But what I'm watching is the 13-week T-bill yield. And why the 13-week instead of the 10-year, whatever? 13 weeks is only a few months, 3 months, and that's what really closely ties to the Fed's preferred benchmark rate. That is the Fed funds rate. Mm-hmm. The Fed funds rate is above 4% right now. In fact, they have a target range of 4 to 4.25%. So this is already front-running not only a rate cut, because that would bring the range down to 3.75 to 4%, but it's now below that. So rate cuts are getting priced into the actual market here. We're not even talking about derivatives and the way we usually talk about rate cuts getting priced in. And so my one concern here would be if the Fed is behind the 8 ball and we're seeing these rate cuts because the Fed is trying to catch up and prevent a recession, well, then it's usually too late. So that's what the market is dealing with right now. Economy's kind of on the razor's edge. And by the way, we don't really have the data to know how good or bad the labor market is. So this I find not necessarily good news. Fed cuts are not always necessarily good news. I guess that's my bottom line there.
Thank you, Bob.
All right, so I see one that just popped up, PBBT. This was a low float. It's up 8%. One of the first low floats that we've seen on the day, with 15 million shares traded on PPBT. Purple Biotech achieves manufacturing milestone for IM1240, a tri-specific antibody for Captain 3 platform. And then it's a couple of repeats of that news. So I just saw it popping up, just making y'all aware of that. Of course, we got these rate cuts coming. One Life says Russell has always lagged behind, and then Phineas Hebrew says up 139 on the Nasdaq. I did look over at the Nasdaq, and it is moving up quite a bit. Let me see. So over here, I mean, look at this. From 24,000 back on, was it 10/22? It's been 7 days of straight up with the gap up, straight up, just climbing. So we're gonna see what ends up happening with this. Why is this the 15 minute? This should be the daily. Am I on the wrong chart? 5-day, 15 minutes. Anyway, but yeah, that's almost straight up from Wednesday. And then I got PPBT down here that I'm not sure what it wants to do. It's up 83% with 17 million shares traded. Don't know what kind of, if it's going to be super wiki. I know yesterday was super wiki, but I'm not seeing anything. I did take note of the earnings and the different names that we heard in the news today. NVIDIA, TSM, MSFT, Google, or AVGO, and Meta were names that were mentioned during the reporting that we saw today. So I'm gonna keep those up and see how they perform during this time as the news comes out. It is Wednesday, so you know, hump day is a movement. It's a crossover of different things. We were talking about at the beginning. We got Israel breaking ceasefire. We got Fed shutdown still in play. We got President Trump meeting with the Chinese president. We got AI still absolutely exploding. We just got a lot of things coming into the end of this month, and I just want to see how this whole shutdown is going to end up affecting it. I don't know how much it's going to affect it, but I'd rather be, sitting on my hands right now than super active. I am looking for buying opportunities for sure in my long-term portfolios, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. 19 million, and it's going on down. So it came from 57 cents. The only problem with it closing below 75 cents is these halts. If it does start halting around, it could be really, really tight halts on PPBT. Let's go look at what this company actually is here. Purple Biotech. All right. What you got over here? Who you connected to? Purple Biotech. All right, so, oh boy. This is an Israeli stock. Purple Biotech Limited, a clinical stage company, focuses on developing therapies to overcome tumor immune evasion and drug resistance for cancer patients in the United States. Its oncology pipeline includes CM24, a humanized monoclonal antibody that blocks the interactions of carcinoembryonic antigen-related cell adhesion molecule 1 as a combination therapy with anti-PD-1 checkpoint inhibitors, which is in phase 2 clinical trial for the treatment of pancreatic ductal adenocarcinoma. NT219, a small molecule that targets and inhibits insulin receptor substrate 1 and 2. Okay, so these are different types of tumors and cancers, neck cancers, head and neck cancers. Let's see, anti-tumoral. But yeah, this company was formerly known as Kitov Pharma Limited and changed its name to Purple Biotech Limited, so it won't sound so Israeli, in December 2020. The company was incorporated in 1968 and is headquartered in Rehovot, Israel. So Israeli company. Let me go ahead and put that on here as a note. Israel. And it was incorporated in changed its name in 2020, but was incorporated in 1968. All right, back over to where we were. $22 million shares traded on it though. Already showing some little wicks.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right, we already saw
We're
this
working
one.
together.
Go out back to the home page, see if any fresh news is dropped. About 10 minutes away from 7 o'clock. Chip maker NVIDIA on track to become first $5 trillion company. Cuts annual earnings forecast. Let's see. What is the dividend on NVIDIA? Or do they do dividend? Are they just growing right now? Is that what they're doing? PPBT getting punished right now. Israeli stock went up to 130 and now down under $1. 24 million shares traded and just struggling to even hold $1. Not seeing any other catalysts on today. ADT. No catalyst on any of the green ones. Okay. All right. Verify. What? Okay, well, that's weird. Dividend isn't pulling up. Okay, there it goes. NVIDIA. All right, so NVIDIA started paying out. Let's just look at view all payout history. Started paying out in 2012. Quarterly dividend of, well, that's calendar year payout. Gotta be higher than that now, right? Okay, so 1 cent, about 1 cent per quarter. 1 cent per quarter on NVIDIA, but I guess most of the people that are holding this are getting the most of their value on the actual movement of the stock instead of the payout. For sure, because 1 cent a quarter, I mean, it's definitely not a crazy dividend stock for sure. PPBT getting punished. Yep. So I mean, just seeing that it's an Israeli stock and knowing that Israel just hit a country and they're going to war puts a lot of uncertainty on something like this. It's like, yeah, we know what y'all are doing. We know what y'all are doing. And actually looking at the daily chart, it really looks pretty bad. So daily chart, it had this gap up here that it was kind of in 129 down here to 91 cents. And now it's at 80. So it's right under this little gap level. So look here. At the bottom, a lower gap. Lower daily gap. Then duplicates, and then it had the higher daily gap up here to 125, which it actually ended up hitting that during pre-market. And this is higher daily gap. So yeah, definitely very, very questionable stock play on today. 30 million shares traded on it. Okay, Fisher cuts annual earnings forecast as merchant arm growth slows, shares plummet. Fisher, what is this? Okay, Fisher lowered. What do y'all do? All right, FitServe Inc. provides payments and financial services technology solutions in the United States, Europe, and Middle East and Africa, Latin America, and all of these other places. It operates through merchant solutions and financial solution segments. The company provides merchant acquiring and digital commerce services, mobile payment services, security and fraud protection, all these things. Okay, so they have Clover. I have heard about Clover. Let's see. And they've been around since 1984 out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Financial services. Are they a dividend stock? Does not look like it. Nope. All right. Yeah, payments. I heard PayPal went up too. Let me go look at PayPal's price. Let's see. PayPal. It has been going up. Let me look over here at the daily chart on PayPal. So PayPal came to this bottom, went down to 50 bucks, went back up to, well, this was in 2023, so that isn't very recent. Went back down to 55 bucks around earlier this year. And now it's trading right around 70 something dollars on PayPal. But it looks like it actually ended up taking quite a bit of a move down. It did a pop up. This was from yesterday close, so it went up there to almost 80 bucks. Filled this gap once again from 72 up here to 78. And now it's coming back down and may end up closing this gap and trying to trade around this level. So PayPal, if you're interested in payment systems. But yeah, for today, it's going to be a defensive day. We're still green on the month. Gave a little bit back yesterday, but, you know, overall, looking good. With all the noise and all this stuff going on, I'm just surprised that this month was this slow. But indecision can be a monster, and it can stay indecisive way longer than not. So, PPBT coming back up there and hitting the lower side of that gap right there at the 90s. And it continues to get volume. 31 million shares traded on this one. Don't have any high hopes for that. Nvidia up 3%, went up there to the 209s. TSM, Microsoft is seems way stabler than Nvidia. It may have some swings, but Nvidia is like a huge small cap. AVGO, Google, Alphabet, and then Meta. So yeah, I'll keep my eyes around the market. It's about to hit the 7 o'clock top of the hour. And just looking for this thing to continue to fail below 82 and continue to ride on down during the day. As a small cap, if that's where the focus is, 47 million shares traded, then I know I need to be sitting on my hands. Because the motion is elsewhere. One of the things I noticed about those big companies like the Magnificent Seven, they may have some moves during pre-market, but intraday, if they're gonna explode, intraday is when they do it. It's like insane. I've seen, like the moves that you get on intraday for those. Nvidia has 10 million shares traded even during pre-market though. So huge trading before the day even gets started. I don't know if it's going to have profit taking before trying to move higher. I think it may after this big move up to 209. The options and things like that, people taking profit up here that may have had plays on this from back here yesterday. Wait, where'd it go? Go to the 15-minute since you want to act crazy. 15-minute. So it came down here to 176, and over these last couple of days before this conference or whatever they had, the GT conference, I mean, it's just been on a constant tick up. So, you know, options plays, people that were going long on this, will they want to take profit up here? And is it even at a level where profit should be taken? Let me look over here. Or is it at all-time highs? Never mind. There's nothing up here except this. Okay. So no real gauge. And so it closed at 203 yesterday, and it will be opening up around 208. So just a constant grind higher on Nvidia. All right, so I'm not going to cook too much time this morning. It's Wednesday. I'm probably not looking to just jump into things. I'm going to keep my eyes on these bigger plays, bigger movers, and see if I can see any buying opportunity for longer term portfolio and maybe even crypto. I don't know what crypto's doing. I haven't looked over there. Let me look what Bitcoin is at right now. So over here. Bitcoin's kind of just sitting in the middle at 113 with has went down to 104s and then as high as 126, and we're about to close the month. So we're going to see if it can close here and end up just trading around the tops of these bodies. And I mean, if the government or if the shutdown ends, it may climb. Expectations may rise on it and climb. So that's what my expectation is it continues bullish. And even if the government doesn't shut down, I'm thinking it may hold steady here for those that don't have to sell. But we'll see. We're going to get ready to shut it down. I am bored with this small cap market. I don't want to waste too much mental energy this morning. Probably going to go ahead and do some work since it is the day that I usually lose on, which is Wednesday. I'm just going to keep my head on a swivel. I probably won't be just staring at the market, but I will tune back in a little bit later just to see how it's going, especially around the Fed rate cut around 2 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm going to keep my eyes on that. Anyway, that is it for me today. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Once again, I'll be back on pre-market tomorrow. And yeah, we keeping our eyes open, trying to play defense at the end of a crazy month and the beginning of an even crazier month. Actually, we're going from crazy to crazy. See what this is talking about.
Is going to keep increasing from here. And what if they don't?
Well, then there's one of those scenarios. That's the thing is it's baked in that the AI spend is going to continue more or less ad infinitum. Meanwhile, we heard Meta basically cutting a lot of people in AI. Maybe they've spent a little too much. Now, you can argue that the whole point of AI development is to allow more efficiency, which translates into people losing their jobs. But that may be part of it. Amazon, again, with their cuts, maybe that's part of it as well. Or, is it just a fig leaf for companies saying we overhired and, we're going to use this as our excuse to say that AI is working on our behalf. But right now, the whole market, the whole ecosystem is based on the fact that money will continue to be spent at an increasing pace on artificial intelligence. And at some point, you have to wonder, is that sustainable? And I point to the example. I know the prior guest did not see echoes of the internet bubble, but I'm thinking to a certain extent that there are echoes, and history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes, of the bandwidth build out that we saw in the internet era, where let me stipulate, we needed the bandwidth, and there were companies very happy to build it. And some of those huge winners who were building the infrastructure that built the internet are such illustrious names as Lucent, Global Crossing, Northern Telecom, WorldCom, Enron. Sense a pattern here? So the problem is, which is not to say that any of these big companies are frauds or doomed to go bust. That's not. Nokia was one of them as well, which I've had in my portfolio for years. I'm like, oh my gosh, this dead money stock is helping me out, but it was by accident. And so, I do have to say that that's the caution there, is that this gold rush into AI. It's tough to sustain the enthusiasm and the high levels of profitability and growth that are priced into these stocks.
Steve, always great to see you, especially on set.
Okay, shutting it down now. Peace.